Well, you guys are saying you guys are up,
I started
up
this
for January, February, March.
We're down. On days I'm off, I take one.
But.
So I started this as a joke
March.
for my assistant, until vacation.
Line, no worries.
Okay, well, let's call the meeting to order. We're recording, doing everything we need to do. Okay. It's Paul here. Paul, you want to call the roll?
Sure. Chuck is absent. Billy,
I'm here.
Kathy,
Here.
is Alex there?
Yep.
Oh.
Good timing. Brian's there and Larry is down.
Yep.
there. And Mike, I'm sorry.
Great. Mike, you want to pray for us?
Absolutely, let's pray. Our Heavenly Father, thank you for bringing us together today. Bless this meeting, place your hands on us as we make decisions to impact the community, people that live here. Guide and direct us to do your, will, as we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Chance to receive and review the minutes from last meeting. Any issues or objections to those? Make a motion to approve. Second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We're gonna skip number 3, right? Mike, let me know when Stephen comes on.
Jeff
He's
Ferguson.
Okay. Jeff, are you ready to present?
Or do you need the rest of CJW?
No, I'm happy to present whenever you all are ready.
Perfect, we're ready.
Okay, so from the last time we met, we were able to streamline the two designs down. We removed the piece that went across the road. And from that, you requested to centralize that design a little bit further and focus more onto the American flag and the Steel Eagle piece. Just need to see how I can share my screen real quick here. Share.
I just made you the host.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. All right, everyone be able to see my screen? Okay, perfect. All right.
That's a negative, not a positive. No, sir.
We cannot see it yet.
It'll make a quick meeting if you can't see my screen. Let me see if I can switch over, see if that will help. Oh, okay, sorry. I had to hit the share button at the bottom.
right.
Okay. So we still kept with the patriotic approach for this design, and then the use of lighting in the evening. It's more of a centralized focus on this piece. I worked with Chris Wynn in terms of maintaining the walk requirements along the edge of this right of way, and then let this be more of a car view, pedestrian from the sidewalk only view, and try to keep people away from this design altogether. So I want to zoom in just a little bit. Some things that we kind of added here, we've did the Cortan steel flag, an overlay of the painted Steel Eagle, but we did incorporate flags as part of this design. And then we just kind of collared all of this together with large limestone planting beds where we kind of protect the vegetation, and then a place where we can place those lights. Keeping it separated from pedestrians that would be along the sidewalk itself, just to encourage them to stay there and not loiter around this space and let that become an issue at the intersection. Just another view. We've are still working with there was a request to kind of look at some ribbon type movement within the space. So that's the reason why we have some of these steel components that are happening as kind of more artistic elements that land into the right-of-way softscape area itself. Then just to get an idea of what it could feel like at the evening hours. So it's a little bit more centralized. It's definitely more focused. And we feel like it's maintaining people onto the walk itself and not interacting with the scenic display area. Does anyone have any questions about that?
Jeff, I'd like to ask the board's opinion. Is there an appetite of adding a flag for Space Force? Yeah, it's becoming more. I'm sorry, what it's Space Force?
It was, just so you know, it was supposed to be on there.
Okay.
The American flag, I think the consensus was last time that essentially the American flag is already down in front and it was gonna have the military flags around it, so to speak. So the American flag was supposed to be the Space Force flag on there. It's just not been switched yet. We caught it, but it hasn't been switched to renderings yet.
So there'll be a sixth flag?
Yes.
And there's 6 poles that are there.
Unless-
So
unless
the
you
6
want-
top runs will all be your military ones, and then your flag that will represent America is quarter tin steel there. Or do you want to
Oh,
add
I
another
see,
pole
I
for
see.
7?
No, that,
They just didn't have a rendering for Space Force.
got it. Oh, I'm glad. Thank you very much. Jeff, I really like that. I think it's classy. I've been saying for a while that I really want to encourage this group to add more of the wow factors, and that's clearly a wow factor.
Gorgeous.
You agree? Absolutely. It's fantastic.
It's beautiful.
Very nice.
Jeff, do you have anything else on that?
Nothing beyond what I'm showing right now. It's definitely now it's definitely a view from the car. It's a quicker view from the car, meaning that you can understand the composition in one snapshot. And I think that's just doing this whole design process with all of you. It really helped focus this in to make it a little clearer, bring clarity to those that are at this intersection.
Jeff, will that have a drip system to water the plants?
I would suggest that, but that's going to be something that Chris would need to speak further into.
And sorry, I got on a little bit late. I got caught up, but yeah, I mean, I think a big thing of this is, you know, we're still pretty conceptual. I mean, I think we've got down to the point where we found a concept that hearing the feedback there when I got on, that it seems like everybody's supportive of. But you know, this is still, for all intents and purposes, conceptual. We haven't really put any like real hard design to, you know, figure out what this structure looks like. You know, determine what type of actual plants are going to be in this. But yeah, there'll certainly be some sort of drip irrigation system so that, you know, you don't want to put in plants and then, you know, you're spending all this money and then come back 3 weeks later and nothing got watered. So yeah, I would certainly encourage or design a irrigation system to keep this watered.
Chris, do you have like a approximate cost for this so they have an idea?
Yeah, we talked to TDP about that, and that goes a little bit back to not having a full design to see what the, you know, structural side of this is, and you know what the wow factor, the flag, the eagle and stuff would cost. But I don't think it's over $500,000. I think it's probably less than that. I haven't put a number to it, and I might, defer to Jeff to see, you think if it's like if we're talking like 300 or $400,000, or if you think this is something that we could accomplish for less than that.
I think that you have to look at, this is a consignment piece of definitely for a metalsmith to artisan to build this flag and the eagle piece. I think that I think there's a range in there of 300,000 to 500,000. It feels like that would be something that could cover this design.
Yeah, and I think that those are the two big items, is what the flag and the eagle cost. I mean, from a landscaping standpoint and the flags themselves, I mean, you guys, know what, it costs to put in a flag and a pole. I mean, you're just talking a 4-foot deep base, 25 or 30-foot flagpole, and then the flag. So there's not a lot of cost. You got some cost and some lighting and landscaping, but we can certainly boil it down a little bit. But the big two items will be the cost of the flag and the eagle. And I don't, to be honest with you, I don't have any experience on that. If you ask me how much some sidewalk costs, I could help you there, but boiling it down to what an artist is going to charge to make those things is hard.
That's a perfect explanation of that. So what staff is asking for is approval on your all side for the creative design aspect of the board. So we run this board, and we won't bring back any renderings, we'll bring back prints going forward. So if it feels good, so that's our ask.
Michael, so he talked about the limestone base. So how does that fit in with the finishes on segments 1 and 2?
So segments 1 and 2 have some concrete walls that are in there that are basically like a rock look. So when we get a little bit farther there, I would figure that we could either ask them to do real stone and bring it in from the Ozark areas, or we could have some shotcreted in there. We could go down that route alley when we get a little bit closer in design.
So it's cohesive.
Yep. For this is, as soon as they get plans together, the funding is sitting. Now the wow factor that's added on is what would run through here is what the board would be approving on that.
But you expect that intersection to be done?
Oh, yeah.
This year or next?
Yeah, so Chris, where are you at in plans on the intersection outside of this?
Yeah, I was actually just looking over the signal plans, about 30 minutes ago, and we're wrapping up red lines on those. So I think next week we'll have the comments addressed that we received from the city of Branson, from Matt and Mike back. So, I mean, you guys might have a couple additional comments, but I think for the most part, we're there on the signal plans, and our signal plans do take into account, or the intersection plans do take into account the sidewalk and stuff in front of this wow factor. So that would be installed to provide the pedestrian access or the pedestrian movement. And really the wow factor can come afterwards. But I think we're, for all intents and purposes, in the next couple of weeks, we'll be ready to move on the signal and intersection improvements as quick as the city is.
The city funding that's around that intersection, as we've moved that forward, that $800,000 from MoDOT, we're shifting over to segment 1 and 2 with the realization that money will come back to this project. We just couldn't pump in $800,000 into sidewalks only and pedestrian improvements in there. So we spread that out to that side. Agreement we'll bring back to you shortly. So
I'll make a motion to approve this and move it forward.
second.
Okay, all those in favor, or any questions or comments?
My only comment is just that you can see the difference from the daylight and nighttime. The nighttime has a lot of pop into it. So the daytime, the way I look at it is more of a landscaping, to make sure whatever landscape you put in there, it's a big deal because the flags are shown differently in the nighttime. That pops out really good, especially with whatever lighting that we do. So I know a lot of them is lower growth and all that stuff, but it's a big difference in the day and night. Go back to the night again. It's just like, wow, that's what everybody say, when they saw the day, the nighttime, everybody say, wow.
Yeah.
It's not so much the daytime, so but it's more of color, more landscape than anything else.
Yeah.
I mean,
That was one of the things I was gonna mention too. I see a lot of pink and green, and I
Yeah.
think in this area, we ought to be unabashedly red, white, and blue. I mean, I know some of it will be green because it's grass, but I don't think we should be introducing anything but red, white, blue here. And lights and in plants, and let's just make it really, without a doubt, what we're trying to say.
And we'll specify RGB lighting, which is the red, green, and blue, so
Yeah.
that the flag can get that and we can celebrate the 250.
Yeah.
You know, we
I
were
mean, I was
well
supposed to
ahead of this there,
designate
so
that as part of next year's birthday.
with the
celebration.
ability to change colors that are on there, but of course the flags need to be lit regular lights. so-
Sure.
But the.
would there be
flag-
any need to do any kind of like festival banner, like they may be existing on the strip versus in this corner, would there be? I don't, they may not be, I was just curious what some of your thought, and I don't know what would be
Like
and where,
festival. thing?
whatever it is that you have,
Sure.
I know that one time in the street, we think about.
Oh,
banners.
yeah, the banner poles
Yeah,
that
so
we
my
walk.
question is, wonder if there's any thought that anybody has some idea that we would introduce something like that in the corner.
Well, I don't think you wanna interfere with
Yeah.
the flags
Yeah,
on
I-
the poles, so it'd have to be something at ground level, maybe if you had a
Yeah.
message to add to it. You know,
And I just wanted to make sure that we were good with the Corten steel flag representing America and the rest of them are military flags.
Yeah.
Because it's very easy at this point now to add one more flagpole and do an American flag also. So, I just want to make sure everybody was good on that. Very easy right now to do, but later on, a little bit more difficult.
well, this picture's a little deceiving in that part too, because the wind is rarely perfectly blowing to illustrate those flags like they are. So when they drape down like they will, usually the American flag is gonna be very dominant, because it's not gonna drape. It does have the perfect wave all the time. And as big as they've been able to make it, which was one of the things we asked for, I think that's plenty.
So we'll make sure as the plans go through that we address the rock RGB lighting and the planning selections that they match the other parts.
The overall design.
They're just renderings
Yeah,
at this
they're-
point.
Yeah.
The overall design is great, I mean, and it fits with the segment 1 and 2. So, and it just, it's just one of the things this section going to be buried, right? All the, are the power already?
Oh,
And
that thing's full of all types of fun, like, good luck. It's gonna be interesting getting
But yes,
this in.
it's underground.
So it's already underground?
Yeah.
Yeah, is it all 4 sides already underground?
For the most part, except for the gas station.
Yeah.
But,
Okay.
yeah, but the gas station was done, the sidewalks and that stuff were done at that. So, but this is, as Chris can tell you, is full of all types of goodies. So there is an open land for a reason normally, there's a lot of conduits and electric lines.
Essentially, when you look at this picture, is something like what Anna's talking about. Wind blowing the flag and also we have the blue sky and all that. Everything is set
Right,
perfectly.
and you don't see a controller box that we have to hide for the
Yeah,
the signal, right, and so
Yeah.
once this gets approved, that helps them set the 90% plans that we were talking about on signal, we didn't know where to put the signal cabinet to get to this point. Gotta figure out where to, I didn't make it.
so there's actually gonna be like a pole in the middle of there somewhere.
No, like probably over where like
Utility
that tree is over there,
Yeah,
and the
yeah.
signal box,
Okay,
for maintenance of the signal, we won't run super far. The other side is Titanic, the other side, we don't have any space that's there, and then you have the gas station that we shy away from.
So Billy, you could put an electronic reader board at the base of that. If you
Yeah,
want
I-
that message there.
yeah, I don't know, I just, like, I agree with Ann saying, I'm just thinking out loud. But if Ann said it's probably taking away some of the aesthetic,
Yeah.
you don't wanna ruin it.
Right.
You
Yeah,
would enhance it, yeah.
I wasn't anything permanently anymore.
Yes. Benches. Well, there is a benches in it. Well, there, you can't sit in that, like, the rock.
No, we said we didn't want people sitting
Well,
there because of the traffic and all of that. That was one of the first feedback that I gave them from this group was take out. This isn't a picnic area, it's an intersection, so.
Any other comments? No, I think we have a motion on the table and a second, so all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, great. Thank you, Chris. Thanks, Jeff. You guys are free to go. Thank you for spending the time.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you all.
Financials.
So the financial revenue for February, year-to-date revenue is $1,149,290. Of that revenue, $1,111,968 is sales tax revenue. This is a 3.2% increase over this time last year. And then for year-to-date expenditures, we have 67,000, which includes transfers out. Are there any questions on that? And then behind the main page, you'll see the backup to all of those numbers. Not a lot going on because it's February financials, but we do like to see that 3.2% increase in February. And I think the date is included here. So you can also go back and then see on the very back page, the fourth page, which is tax history. You can see that we see that 3.2% increase in February, and then it goes back down in March. So we did have an increase in revenue. That was like 600,000 in collections for February. So this is the timing on when we're getting those payments, and then you can see it decrease again. It's super inconsistent. We're trying to track that better and get a good guideline of what we should be collecting, but that's all when we receive the money. It's all cash basis, so we don't account for the revenue until we receive it. There's no other way, better way to do that than cash basis. So I know it's kind of inconsistent, but you can see that as of March, we're still up a little bit, but at least it's not as bad as January. It's negative 10% for the year. So those collections are coming up, and hopefully we can see a steady increase over last year of about 2%. We did budget conservatively, and we didn't budget for an increase because we've seen sales tax kind of steady out. Are there any questions?
So the 3.2% really reflects December.
Yes.
Yeah.
Any questions? No. Okay. Discussion and status of the cooperative agreement.
And I just want to make sure I heard this is the amendment to the cooperative agreement.
Yes.
Yeah, so I was hoping to have an update, a full update for you all, but it looks like it's going to be the next meeting. The city indicated, their attorney indicated they hope to have some comments back to us on the draft that we provided to them in the next week or so. So hopefully by the next meeting we'll have an update, get that under consideration for approval, and that way we can keep moving forward with the financing aspect.
Questions? Okay, well, we'll look forward to seeing more next month. Todd? There they are.
Yeah, good afternoon, all. Good to see you all. In terms of a bond financing update, I did reach out to Robert Baird, the underwriter, after the February board meeting, and they provided a market update. And so the market's hanging in there. I set of numbers they provided were kind of just above 5%, which is, kind of been our estimate for quite some time now. So I think that's pretty favorable in terms of timing. Obviously, as Sarah just mentioned, getting the changes in through on the cooperative agreement that we've been talking about for a couple months is imperative to get that done. That'll match it up with the bond documents and more what we would expect to see from a bond standpoint. And then I'll be anxious to hear the next agenda item on timelines. What I did share with Baird was from our discussion last month that perhaps this would be bid in early June. We'd have a bond sale at some point in June and try to close either the end of June or early July. So you've got funds available as the project costs begin to come in. So that's, just kind of a rough update, not a lot of details, but certainly, we want to monitor the timing of the project. And once we have a little more definitive project timeline, I'll put together or actually update our prior bond timelines and get that sent around. And then finally, we'll also need to update the Taney County Partnership and make them aware of what the timing is. So the Taney County IDA can have meetings scheduled and make sure we've got a quorum for the dates that we might need.
Would that be the Taney County IDA or doesn't the city have an IDA?
Does, I think the decision
Does the
that
city
we
have an
had reached
IDA?
last
City has
year.
an IDA.
Oh, go ahead.
We can't hear you, Tom.
Do you hear me okay now?
We can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, I think we talked about that early on, and I think the decision was to use the Taney County IDA.
That's microphone, the speaker.
Paul, are you hearing me? Okay.
I hear you. Yeah, I hear you fine, Todd.
Okay, good. Would you repeat that, please, Todd? Sorry, Todd, we lost you there.
Oh, no, you're good. We had this discussion quite some time ago on who to use, and I believe the consensus at that point was to utilize the Taney County Industrial Development Authority. And we had reached out to them and had some communication probably, I don't know, 6 months ago or so.
What was, Todd, this is Kathy. Could you just remind us again what the reasoning was behind that? Were there more favorable conditions or terms perhaps, or what was the reason that we picked them?
I'd have to defer. I don't know, Paul, if you remember those conversations, but it seemed like there was some discussion that perhaps the city did not want to use the city IDA. I'd have to go back through my notes because that's been quite some time ago when we had that discussion. The other issuer that we had considered at the time, I know, was the Missouri Development Finance Board, which is more kind of a state level issuer.
And I can hop in there. My recollection also of that conversation, the MDFB that you just mentioned, the state level one, has pretty high fees comparatively. So I think that was why they were ruled out. And then on the Branson IDA, the conversations that I was a part of were that it would potentially cause confusion with the name of the Branson IDA, whether it would cause investors or some people to think that it was in fact the city that was involved with it. And so my understanding was that there was a desire to keep that level of distance between what the city does and the CID moving forward in the financing.
That's right. Thank you, Sarah.
Okay. Any other questions for Todd?
Todd and Sarah, what is the board's deadline to take any action to keep the financing on track? In other words, do you envision any special meetings coming up in May or June? Or you mentioned the cooperative agreement amendment, and that can be on a fluid timeline. Is there a point where there's a cliff out there that that action needs to be taken by a certain date?
Yeah, I would, and I'll let Todd speak to the maybe specific dates, but from a process standpoint, we will want to have an amendment to the cooperative agreement prior to when we post the offering document to investors. And so that posting would typically happen, Todd's probably better to guess at this, but a week to 2 weeks before we would price. And after pricing, you typically have another, I'll say 2 weeks until closing, which would be when you get funds. And so that kind of backs you up, a month maybe from the ultimate closing date. If you go a month prior to that would be when we would want to post the offering document. And that's just because in the offering document, we will outline how the funds are collected and how they flow and the specific rights that bondholders will have to those revenues. That's what we're trying to outline in the amendment to the cooperative agreement. So that's just kind of backing up on, I would say the most condensed that we could get would be a month or so prior to closing, but I think we would all probably feel a little bit more comfortable if we have more time than that. I'll let Todd answer maybe specific dates.
Yeah, I mean, we try to get our work done around your regular meeting dates. So if we're gonna have bonds, if we're gonna have a bond sale in June, then really we need to have the bond issuance approvals probably at the end of May, which means the end of April is when we would want the cooperation agreement to be approved. So, and I think that really needs to happen at the next meeting. And then I know Sarah's involved with the meetings on the city side, but I think from the CID's perspective, I think we need to have that approved at next month's board meeting.
And then, guys, remind me of the process again. After this board approves that, and it has to go to our Board of Aldermen. And is that correct to proceed? Like
Yeah,
if we're
so
making a change to the cooperative agreement, that's gotta go through the board still. So we
correct.
may, okay, just to give you guys a heads up, thank you for all that information, because that crystallized it more, but we'll probably need to have a special meeting in June with this group, I'm sorry, in April with this group, so that we can kind of go through the cooperative agreement. And I will share with you the reason it's taking a little bit longer than maybe what you might think it should, just updating the cooperative agreement. There was some substantive waterfall changes in this proposal that was brought forward that kind of raised a little bit of concern. And so we're trying to evaluate internally the way that money will flow going forward versus how it's been historically. And then some of the other things we're having conversations about isn't unique to this SID. We're doing this in different contracts around the city, which is going back and looking at what are the, how I was always talking about a year ago, right? Getting back to the basics. What does the cooperative agreement say? What are we really doing in real life? And can we match those things up and true those things up so that for the next generation going forward, there's clear foundational understanding of who's responsible for what or who gets paid how much for this or that. So we're trying to evaluate costs and level of service from the original agreement, which was a dream right before any work got done. Now we're living this, some of the improvements are already done. How do we manage it in real life now? And so those are the things that we're evaluating that we'll be bringing back. There's nothing drastic that's coming. So I just want to tell you that. I should probably start with that. But just we're trying to work through the details of how that should be formatted. So that's really what we'll be bringing back to you at that special meeting. So I think we'll probably have to get a special meeting on the books, and we're near tying up the waterfall, I think, but it's gonna be a bit of a robust conversation, I think.
So that meeting date, then, we want that to occur before the fourth Tuesday of the month.
And so I'll hop in there on the timing of the two different board meetings, the CID board and then the board of the city. Those, one does not necessarily have to happen before the other. We just will want each board to approve an agreed upon amendment. So the first step would just be finalizing the form, and then it does not matter which board meets first to approve it. Both will need to approve.
Oh,
They're separate actions though.
Okay, well, either way, we gotta fit 2 meetings in,
Yeah.
right, before we can move forward, so we'll work on that on our end and communicate out to the rest of you and make sure we're on the same page there.
And, you know, we've all been here long enough to know that when something like that comes to this board, fairly hesitant to just be like, okay, yeah, let's go, without having some time to review, so.
Understood, yeah.
You know, let's just add to that, if we're talking about a mid-April-ish meeting for that. And then we have a regularly scheduled the day after your board, I mean, that's not gonna work. If we're not able to take action mid-April.
Yeah, we'll try and put some buffer as much as we can in there,
Yeah.
so we're running
Okay.
with it. So, you know, it's just one more plate we're spinning.
Sure.
But, yeah, we'll work to meet those expectations for sure. Thank you.
Okay, anything else on that front? If not, Michael's gonna tell us if we're on short track or not.
Sure, so update is we're basically down to 2 owners as we discussed before. Olive Garden, I would expect sometime this week in the mail or something close. It was one revision that they maybe should have had it already, that we kicked back to them. Asking for construction and any improvements in front of their building for the rest of time only be at night, and that's something that I wasn't comfortable putting onto the city for that time, so that's a small thing with them, and that should be taken care of. The other person is Mr. Grockock's properties, 38, 55, 56, and 57. Kathy's had some conversations with them. I know he's been on vacation with his family and things like that. He has everything he needs from the city as of today. And lots of people are talking to him and just would ask anybody that has any interaction with him to encourage him to get those signed, and he's the last one. So that's the update, and that's where we're at.
What's his temperature? I mean, is he just too busy to mess with it, or?
It's just busy. This what it is. So.
And he wanted a condition written in which wasn't objectionable, that we don't do any plantings that will interfere with his sight lines for his signs. Okay, that's like a no-brainer, you know what I mean? That shouldn't hold things up for a year of conversation, so, but the good news is we tidied up all the other issues he was concerned about, and now it's just these little granular things that are no big deal. And then it's getting him to pay attention. Like, I just wanna find him somewhere, honestly. But guys, right now, right, we've addressed these things, like just sign right here, and it'll all be great.
Yeah.
So, I'm near to that point where I'll start stalking him, see, in case he's listening online.
See your life.
Yeah, I told him, I said, you're the last one, so let's put a bow on this.
He's the holder of 4.
Yeah.
There are no other hangups other than, like she said, minute things that each time we address, and it takes a second.
So there
to
are
address.
hangups that we haven't already designed around.
Right.
Okay. Kind of few outliers, but that's good news. We need to track them down and send it your way.
Yeah, please do.
Any new business to discuss?
I have a question on that sign, that intersection, you know? Is that a photo output, do you think? Because I know it doesn't have any mention of Branson, Missouri or anything like that. Is that something that someone will take a picture of that sign?
Well, I did notice the lack of a Branson anything at that intersection, like, it's super fly cool, patriotic, beautiful, tasteful, all that.
It's not,
It's not there, but there is no Branson B or anything like that even. But I mean, again, I'm no artistic person. Okay?
no, I just want this
so you
photo
know.
opportunity and
Yeah.
somebody can take a picture. They don't know they're in Branson.
Yeah,
And you post it, you know. I
And
just,
we can look for a subtle place to put that wherever the photo op.
yeah, well, that's.
Even
Maybe
on
on the
the rock
dedication.
face where it's like.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, to me, that's.
Somebody will stand on there.
It's a thought.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a thought. Sorry, Michael, it's just a thought, it means it's gonna do it.
No problem.
Yeah, go ahead.
We learned this week at the Chamber's Legislative Committee meeting from Brian Seitz that we have another $4 million in the Missouri State budget towards this project.
Wow.
So celebrate all you want. It's of course not money in the bank until it makes it through several more steps, but they did see fit to give us another 4 million.
Or,
To follow up on the 6.2 that we're still trying to
and
figure
we
out
can
how to get it in our
allocate,
hands.
we can allocate it to 1 and 2.
Yeah, the 76 project,
Okay.
that's my understanding.
Yeah.
Yes.
Recent, was this, you talked to Brian about that?
That was the meeting on Monday, Tuesday? Last Friday. It was within the week. It was last Friday.
Okay, because I talked to Brian before that, and he was asking to keep that quiet, so we don't have any issues with the GFC.
Oh,
But if
well,
they
it
move-
certainly isn't something we're gonna do a press release on at this point. I really just wanted this group to know.
But you gotta record, you record it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he may have said that, but he announced it Friday. She and I sat down with him 60 days ago.
Yeah.
I went through the practical realities of all the problems that you guys were having getting 6.2. We did the same thing with Brad. And talked about what the ask should be. And but Brian announced it Friday at the legislative meeting, so.
Oh, nice.
So, it's in there,
So the cat's out of the bag.
yeah. And it's in there, okay? That doesn't mean we're going to, as she said, that doesn't mean we're gonna get it.
Yeah.
So. So, yeah.
What's the timeline?
Every million counts.
I think they generally sign the budget in July or August, is that right, when it's finalized? Yeah, so it's a few months off.
Any other new business? No, hearing none. Let's seek a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
See you guys.
Thank you.